Hey guys, it's Charge and Hayner present Zoom to TBT, and tonight we got Ot Elmore of Heard That, the alumni team for TBT. What is up, Ot?
Hey, how you doing, fellas? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you taking some time. And so, let's just get started with a little bit of your background. So obviously this is going to be your third year in the TBT. So tell us how you got involved with TBT, and you were the West Virginia Wildcats and now Heard That.
Right, I believe my junior year at Marshall, I saw it on TV and watched it. And of course, that summer I couldn't participate because, I was still playing at Marshall. Again, watched it again as a senior, of course, watched it between my junior and senior year. Then after my senior year, once the eligibility was up, I was like, wow, that'd be something fun to do, get a group of guys that I enjoy playing with. And we'd play in the tournament if it was for free. That's how much we'd love to play. But going for $2 million makes it that much sweeter.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So why was it the right time to convert from West Virginia Wildcats to Marshall alumni team Heard That?
We in the past, I think we were just one or two people shy of being able to be official alumni team. This year, just with everything going on, all the guys were going to be back and everybody's going to be available. We are having enough to officially, under the tournament regulations, to be an alumni team, and we wanted to go ahead and do that because Marshall fan base is great and they were supporting us anyway. But we want to represent our school and alma mater, and we all just love Marshall and try to represent them the best we can.
It's interesting too because Marshall's always known as being, and I don't mean this in an offensive term, the little brother program. Can you speak a little bit about what that rivalry with the Mountaineers means?
It means a lot, especially if you're not in West Virginia. You don't really understand the true depth of that rivalry. It seems like about 95% of the state, 90% of the state's all West Virginia all the time. But there's a little section down in Huntington in the little southwestern part of the state that loves their herd and they're diehard fans. And with being a small state, there's only 2 Division I schools, so there's going to be a little bit of a rivalry there. It's all fun. We talk it up a lot. We know all the guys from West Virginia. They sort of know us. While when the games are going on, we hate those guys. Afterwards, we don't like them, but it's not a hatred though.
It's pretty funny because, like you mentioned, Huntington, and not many people know this, but I am actually my family, the Hayner namesake. Actually, there's a lot of family in Huntington, West Virginia. So even though I'm from Memphis and my father grew up there, most of my extended family is from Memphis, or not from Memphis, from Huntington, West Virginia. So I have a lot of Marshall fans in my extended family, actually, which is kind of.
I knew there was something about you I liked.
That's really it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we finally have a guest that likes Hayner. This is a first. We're doing well tonight. Hey, the other thing I really liked about your team, it's a little bit of a family affair too. So obviously the Elmore name, rich history in basketball, and obviously it sounds like your whole family has been and currently will continue to be involved with the TBT. So just give us a little background about your family and how they're going to be involved in TBT this year.
Well, I like that question because, of course, I like talking about myself, but I'm proud of my family and don't mind talking about that. The basketball legacy in our family started with my grandfather. He actually was a scholarship guy at West Virginia University, played at West Virginia University. He actually signed with West Virginia the year they got beat in the national championship. So, and that's when Jerry West and them were there. So, I mean, in that time, it was like going to Duke or North Carolina. So he was a really good player. And then, of course, my dad went to VMI, 2-time Southern Conference Player of the Year, got drafted in the NBA. And then me and John were fortunate. John's a little more fortunate than me. He ended up a little bit better than me, but we both played Division I basketball. He, of course, is the all-time lead scorer and assist man in Conference USA and Marshall history. But basketball's always been something the family's been able to bond with. And officially it was always basketball, school basketball, AU basketball, but now me and John are older. The TBT is great because it gives us an outlet to sort of have that same bond and do those same fun things. And my dad's going to be the head coach like he was this past year. Me and John are both going to play. And while we might be the only 3 on the roster with the name Elmore, most of these guys are Marshall alumni and their family as well.
I find that interesting too, because and I want you to speak a little bit about this because, like, a lot of TBT fans are also college fans. We've been very open that Charge and I come at this from different angles, which makes our partnership pretty good. Charge is a huge G League guy. I'm more of a college sports fan, so we can both attack it from a different angle. And I think most casual college fans just don't understand the rich history of West Virginia basketball. You mentioned Jerry West, but also Marshall. I mean, you got D'Antoni with that new run and gun where, like, he just wants everything to be outside in. You run a loose, fun offense. I mean, you got guys like Jason Williams, you got guys in this sort of history. Like, can you speak a little bit about how special it is to represent the Marshall name on a national scale?
That's awesome. Growing up, I was in Charleston. I grew up a Mountaineer fan. My dad, of course, played at VMI, like I mentioned. And when his time, they were big rivals with Marshall. So when they play at Marshall, they thought maybe he was a little bit of a crybaby. So they'd throw diapers and stuff at him on the court. And so he hated Marshall with a passion because every time he went to Huntington, it got pretty ugly. They'd have to be escorted out by police and stuff. Because, I mean, that was a big rivalry during the time. And so he hated Marshall. And me and John grew up as Mountaineer fans and never really thought much of Marshall. Before college, I'd been to Marshall one time, and I was watching play VMI because VMI was recruiting my brother and I, so we got tickets to go down there. And I'd never even seen it, but I remember my first impression down there was the gym was super nice. And it was a lot better than I thought it would be. And of course, Whiteside, I believe, was actually on that team. And he went on to have some success. But but once I got there, you don't realize how much the community, how much the people who have been there or are from there invest in the school and how proud they are of the school. And they've treated us well. The school's done great things for my brother and I. And we just want to represent it the best we can and give back as much as we can, because unless you've been there, it really is a family, and it's a special, special place.
Yeah, and that's a wonderful way of putting it. And real quick, a slip in too. We are live. We have a chat on on YouTube right now. So if you guys want to come in and ask some questions, feel free, because we're definitely taking questions for Ot about the Herd That team.
Yeah, and just kind of one more background question before we start digging in a little more to this year's team and what TD 2020. But that NCAA tournament run that you guys had at Marshall, obviously your brother scorched Wichita State. And at the end of the day, you were probably the viral sensation off of the whole team. So how was that experience, being part of, obviously, being in the tournament, getting that win, and then obviously you kind of going viral for 9-ish minutes in the game?
Yeah, that experience was awesome. I mean, it was a magical run from the beginning of the Conference USA tournament through, I guess, round of 32 when West Virginia got us. Magical run. You really can't put into words how awesome it is, because you put in so much work, so much time, so much effort into the season and trying to be successful. And our whole goal all year was to win Conference USA and make the NCAA tournament. And of course, the school hadn't done it since 1985 when they had beat my dad's team in the championship to go. So, I mean, it was awesome. And then we got back from the Conference USA tournament. The whole city was waiting on us to celebrate. We leave for the tournament. We actually thought we got a really good matchup in Wichita State. That was probably the ideal matchup for us. They were a team that wasn't too big for one of the major teams that could just try to beat us up inside. Their best players were their guards, Frank Camp and Shamet. Our best players were our guards, and I'll take my brother against anybody, and he was fortunate enough to win his matchup. We were fortunate enough to win the game, and for a little bit, I thought we were going to get West Virginia. We jumped on them early, had a guy get hurt, had the ref swallow the whistle a couple times, and it sort of snowballed the wrong way. But all in all, when that game ended, there were 17 teams left playing college basketball, and we were one of them because we were the last round of 32 games. So I take pride knowing that little old Marshall was the 17th team left in the country.
And you got to take pride in that. And I think one thing that's really interesting about this format is, unlike other professional leagues like the NBA that have a playoff structure, it's win or go home. And I know that Marshall, I know CUSA is, unfortunately, and I think it's very unfair, by the way, with quality programs like UAB and Middle Tennessee, is now considered basically a one-bid conference, which I think is kind of a tragedy in a lot of ways.
Oh, it was. And because if you notice that year, we went to the NCAA tournament. Western Kentucky went to the Final Four of the NIT. They were actually a top 50 RPI team in the country. The week before the Conference USA tournament, Middle Tennessee was 24th in the country. We upset them on the road, sort of on that little magical run. We upset them right before the conference tournament. So they had just fallen out of the top 25. And they had been, I mean, the year before they'd went to I think it was the Sweet 16. They'd won NCAA tournament games back-to-back years. It's a travesty Conference USA doesn't get more respect. Before this past year when ODU didn't do their job and win a conference tournament game or win an NCAA tournament game, the conference had won 5 straight years in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, and it's crazy because I wanted to ask you about that because TBT most closely resembles not just the NCAA, but a conference tournament. So Marshall being a fan base that's expected to be in basically a one-bid conference now, does that help you playing those pressure games, knowing you have to go win or go home every game of you guys' college lives? Does that more sets you up to be able to handle the pressure of a knockout tournament like TBT?
Yeah, we've been doing it our whole time. And just like you said, we've been there. I'm not going to say TBT is less important, but like when you're in college, you know, that's everybody's
just
watching.
Different. We'll say
Right,
different. We'll say different.
Right. And I'm not saying anything bad. It's just different. And TBT is just like that. You got to win or go home. And I think the little guys who've had that mentality for years are better able just to walk into it and be ready for it.
Yeah, so quick look at your history in the TBT, and then we'll jump into this year's squad. So 2 years in, 2018, you guys won a play-in game in Columbus, and then had to take on the Titans of Ohio State, kind of their home court. You guys showed up with a small but rowdy crowd, so that year was pretty amazing. I remember seeing the videos of the party bus, and I was sitting behind your fan club while watching that game, so it was pretty wild to see.
No one parties like people from West Virginia.
Yeah, I mean,
no one.
It was Kimchi-like. Kimchi's got that reputation for small but powerful. But yeah, these guys showed up that game. I was pretty sure I was tweeting about that. Lost to Ohio State last year. First round loss to Big X, not Big Ten, Big X. Based on what you've observed the past couple of years, what did you need to do differently roster building this year to ensure you have a good run in 2020?
Well, the first thing was I think one of our better players, first or second best player on the team, didn't show up against Big X, and we were counting on him. I think we have him. We win that. I think I ended up logging about 26 minutes. I went back to the drawing board and realized if we're going to win, my minutes had to come down. I didn't want to be out there that long. But I think we were close. We got beat up inside a little bit, got beat up on the boards. And, of course, I've always said all along the big difference between major college basketball and mid-major and lower level is not so much the guard play. There might be a slight difference, but as you move up, those bigs are big and those bigs are elite, and they don't just grow on trees. And we sort of came into the last 2 years without the type of bigs we needed to get it done. That's no disrespect to the guys we had. They did a great job. They battled, but if you're not 6'11", or, there's levels, and I don't think we were at the elite level we needed to be. We've fixed that this year. Ryan Taylor, of course, the last 2 years averaged a double-double. Kid is an absolute stud. I think he had 24 and 13, 24 and 11, something like that against Big Ten last year. Played a heck of a game. Chris Coakley, we added this year, was a first-team All-Conference USA guy. Used to terrorize us at Marshall. We had nightmares about playing him. Big, strong kid. Just absolutely wore us out. But, he's an elite level player. He's big time. We've added him. Today we just announced Zach Smith, 6'8" forward from Texas Tech. Jumps out of the gym. We used to shoot a lot of threes. We're hoping we're dunking on people's heads now. We're going to change the approach a little bit. And we have some more
by the way, that's a great time to mention our sponsor, the Dunk Camp. Go learn from the best in Utah. It's going digital this year, but it goes live next year. You're going to be dunking on people's heads like them. That's a great answer. We got a question actually from one of our viewers. Victoria Dent wants to know, Ot, what is special about this year's roster? I think you might have just addressed it, but if you want to sort of elaborate a little.
I think what's special about this year's roster, well, in addition to everything I just said, because
you kind of answered it already.
Right, I don't want to bore y'all, but another neat thing is we're a Marshall alumni team this year. We've added 2 or 3 more Marshall alums. We're an official team. We're excited about that. Tori Dent's a great fan. She has bad luck in the fiance department, but we won't hold that against her. But no, I'm really excited about this year's team. We have some great additions. We have some great returners. We're going to have a training camp for about 2 weeks. We're going to fly everybody in. We're going to practice. If we're fortunate enough to make it, you know, I don't want to presume anything, but if we're fortunate enough to be in it, we're coming to win it.
Right. Yeah, you mentioned it's truly a Marshall alumni team this year. So I think the good thing here is you got your core coming back, yourself, John, Ryan, Stevie. You talked about this all contributed in a big way last year. So how important was getting CJ Burks to play this year with you? Because chemistry is everything, and this really is a who's who of recent Marshall alumni. So what kind of impact do you see CJ Burks making?
CJ Burks going to have a big impact. I mean, he didn't score as many points as he did. He didn't have the success he did at Marshall because he's a slouch. He's going to come in right away. He's going to score. He's going to play. Great athlete, great player. More importantly, great person. I mean, we all get along. Love CJ to death. He's going to come in. He's going to help us. Another new addition that you haven't mentioned yet, I want to shout out Rondell Watson. We just added him today. Big dunk in that Wichita State game. He dunked all over whoever their center was on an alley-oop pass. That's one of the memories I'll remember forever from that run. We got him today, 6'4". He's another kid that you better watch your head because he might dunk on you. So we wanted to be a little more versatile this year. We're used to bombing threes, but like I said, now we're going to be attacking the rim a little bit more with a couple of the new guys.
Someone has to get those rebounds when you miss.
Well, this year we're hoping not to miss.
Yeah. I saw you guys tweet out today. Definitely going from one of the funnest teams to one of the best teams in the TBT. So obviously making big strides there, and the West Virginia Wildcats really was fun to watch. And I did make a note. You mentioned some of the guys, some of your bigs from last year. That Adam Klein was fun to watch. So he was
big bruiser.
That guy grinded down there.
He was. He's a great dude. I haven't seen him lately. If we have an extra roster spot, I mean, I'm sure we're going to try to be one of the guys we invite. But I mean, big bruiser. If you liked him in the TBT, you should have seen him in his prime. I mean. You bring a lunch pail if you're going to be banging around with him.
Yeah, no, he was fun to watch. He's one of those guys, especially when you said the thing about the size. I mean, he was fearless down there, though. He was going up against some big boys down there. He was fearless and just real fun guy to watch.
No question about. And I always thought he was a big, strong cat. And he's probably going to be mad at me saying this, but I thought he was a big, strong cat. So I saw him try to guard Jared Solinger, and then I realized what a true big, strong cat was.
No, you're right about that.
If that's nothing against Adam, a lot of people haven't been able to guard Jared Solinger, and he does a great job for us, and he gave us everything we have, and you can't be upset with that.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta approach it with a sense of humor because you're always the biggest, baddest guy in the field until someone else comes out. Then it's like, oh crap.
All right.
So look, let's get to brass tacks here because you guys have a fun team, a quality team. Every team that makes the 24-team tournament is a contender because it's going to be such a strong field. There will be no soft games. There will be no weak games. So if you make this field, you can win the cash. That's just point blank. If you're in the 24, you can win the money. You can get the bag. It's not a problem. Question is, they obviously like alumni teams who bring a fan base. So Marshall has a quality team, a great fan base, but 24 is tight. How confident do you feel about the fact you may or may not get in?
I don't know. I don't want to say anything. I feel personally, and this is my opinion, I feel we have a top 24 team, especially with the talent we've added from last year to this year. Like you said, we've had a decent run in the past. I think we beat that first year we won that playing game by about 50 points or something crazy. I mean, just beat them to death and then turn around and ran into the buzzsaw that was Ohio State, which I don't think you can be too ashamed of that. That last year, I mean, we played Big Ten, lost 8-point game. We're up in the second half, started up 21-3 or something like that. We're down 10.5, came out of the second half, was up 2 or 3 points late in the third quarter. I mean, it was back and forth the whole way. I think a big part of that was we lacked a little bit of depth, got tired, and like I said, I mean, if I'm out there running 26 minutes, we're tired. We're very tired. So we've added a lot of depth, which I think was our big thing, added a lot of talent. And I really feel we have one of the best 24 teams. And to be honest, I don't think there's much of a question with it. Now, if the TBT, they're going to do what they're going to do. more respected either way. It's their tournament. They do a great job. I just hope they can see the value in not only the talent level, but the fan base and the stylistic way we play. Going to be good for ratings. I get on national TV, you never know what's going to happen.
You might go off.
Go viral again. It's been 2-3 years since your viral moment, so you got to make it again.
That's right.
Hey, before we move on with that, I did want to back up a hair and talk about a couple of players that you probably get asked about. Obviously, I asked you about Pierre Henry earlier today, and it sounds like you guys probably get a lot of questions about Ashton Panava. And so just for the Marshall fans, obviously, the people are asking about those two guys. What's the status of those guys for this year?
Those guys, neither of them are going to be able to play. Those guys are actually on the same professional team. It's crazy. Adina and Perry play together in Spain in the EuroLeague. The EuroLeague's canceled, so we thought we were going to get them. I'm not 100% sure how all that stuff works, but I guess they're in the EuroLeague and the Spanish League. The Spanish League did not get canceled. They won't be available to play, it looks like, unfortunately for us. Adine led the country in shot blocking his senior year. Great shot blocker, great shooter, great offensive player. Of course, Perry's just a stud. Love Perry to death. Been playing with him since I was second grade. We missed out on that. That really hurt us. Those are two big studs who would be two of the top players in the whole thing.
Right.
So, and it's funny talking about the top 24 too, because what we were talking about is, and by the way, this is all in good fun. So this is not like trying to cause trouble, but the Southern Smokies tweeted out on May 29th, the only record of Marshall versus a group of our guys is the 16-17 season. Chattanooga 96-85 over Marshall. Looks like the majority are TBT rosters on that team, and the Smokies mock Trios players are on the roster. We'll gladly play you all. #free smoke. And the correct answer, I guess you guys came up with was, talk about winning the NCAA tournament next year. Like, obviously, it's all in good fun, so we're not really trying to cause trouble. Southern Smokies are a quality squad. It's a numbers game. It's 64. I think you're both pretty much have a great shot getting in. But would you look forward to that matchup now that possibly you might get to play them?
Oh, yeah. If we could get that first-round matchup, that would just be one game closer to the 2 million. So we would definitely love that matchup. They might have beat us. We were a young team. I think we even ended up – I'm not going to tell you I looked it up or anything, but I think they finished with 19 wins. We finished with 20 that year. I'm not going to tell you they lost in the quarterfinals to Wofford while we made the Conference USA Championship game. And I'm also not going to tell you the next year we made the NCAA tournament, won a game, and I don't think they did. But that's stuff I'm not going to say on here.
Yeah, you definitely didn't.
But yeah, so I'm definitely not trying to cause any drama if that's what we're looking at. But yes, to answer your question, if we could get them in a round of 24, we're going to be one of the last 16 standing.
Fair enough.
Yeah, no, I like the odds there. Obviously, we do it for fun. We do our projections and try to just kind of have some dialogue around there. And I had you a little higher earlier on, about 16, but with Big X and Heartfire getting into the TBT power rankings and overseas elite and this Team Fredette coming in, I got you about 20 right now. So I'm feeling pretty good about where you're at. So do you think that's based on the teams you're seeing and how it stacks up a pretty fair seeding for you guys as of right now before you get your last edition on your team?
Yeah, I think if you're seeded 1 or you're seeded 24, I think you can be fairly happy that you're seeded there because, like you all have said and tweeted and been talking about for a long time, if you make the 24, you're a contender. I think when this tournament starts, seeding won't matter at all. Seeding won't matter one bit. If you're in, you're in. You're playing quality teams. It'd be like an NCAA tournament. Realistically, if you're seeded 1 through 5, if you're seeded 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it don't matter. You're one of the elite teams in the country, and you got a chance to win it. Was that projection for us before or after today's announcements?
That was before today's announcement. Yeah. So I haven't looked a little closer today. I worked on that one last night. I got to update my sheets as I'm getting word overseas elite's going to be in, and then the Team Fredette. So we'll have to go back.
Update your sheets.
Yeah,
I'm a stat nerd, man. You know that.
It is funny because we've been doing this, and the only bigger basketball nerd I know than me as a fan is definitely Charge. Like, my girlfriend's still shocked at what an absolute fucking nerd is Charge is. I mean that as a compliment, by the way. I absolutely mean that as a compliment.
Just ask your question. Move on.
But anyway, so we're talking a little bit about what we can expect if the Marshall herd that gets in. But like, obviously, D'Antoni really has you guys at Marshall playing an up-tempo, run and gun, shoot three style, 8 seconds and less, much like his brother does at Houston and before that the Suns. So like, can we expect even with the added size for you guys to play loose, trigger happy, get up and down?
Yes, because the size we added, while having the size, we wanted to make sure that they would be able to play in this system. You look at Zach Smith. All I can see with Zach Smith is, I mean, John's going to come off a pick and roll, get doubled. He's going to throw it up. Zach's going to go get it and do something crazy. They're going. Zach's going to be able to have open shots. Chris Coakley, he gets in the pick and roll. It's a dunk. Also, he gives us a dimension where if we just want to sit him in the post, we can throw it in there, get a bucket. But no, most of our team, the better players, are still playing professionally. There's some of us that are quote unquote retired. We're not coming out there to grind it out and sit down and play defense for 24, 25 seconds every time. We're getting that thing up and down, and we're coming to shoot the ball. We're not coming to sit down. We're not going to be playing pack line defense. We're going to be getting up and down, playing as much offense as we can.
That's the other part of Virginia, not the West Virginia part, right?
West Virginia is the other group from our state. The pack line youth from Virginia. We have that little corner of West Virginia, Huntington. We run and gun. Oh, we shoot the ball. My philosophy has always been, and it's probably reflected in the player that I was, is you don't win the game by getting the most stops. You can get the most stops and lose a game. You can't score the most points and not win. So that's my philosophy, is you don't win by stops, you win by points.
I'd expect nothing different, so more of the running gun style. See, you even had, like we mentioned this earlier, you had to go outside of Marshall to actually find big guys who are willing to take those roles, because everyone else is just going to run and gun, right?
That's right. We got to find somebody willing to rebound and do a little of the dirty work. We got to have somebody like Zach Smith in the middle. When we overlay defense, he can try to block it. So he's just going to be protecting the rim. We're going to be floating around ready to shoot it.
Yeah, so just to kind of recap a little bit of the news from last week, we talked about it. Unfortunately, due to the COVID situation, TBT had to go from 64 teams down to 24. Kind of hurts a little bit because it's going to be a real tight window. But you guys were set to actually, West Virginia technically hosting the Charleston regional, so that was going to be really cool for you guys. So now it's going to be determined where they're going to go. But the other piece of the changes is there's going to be a lot of rules and regulations that are going to need to be followed in order to admit teams, or you risk disqualification. So what were your initial thoughts when you heard the safety rules, kind of walked your players through it? Is that something that is going to be pretty easy to do from your side? Sounds like you're going to have a training camp, so you meet that requirement of keeping your guys together, quarantine. But what were your thoughts when you heard it, and how can I do this?
I thought it was great. I mean, obviously you have to be safe and you have to take precautions. It took a greater mind than mine to come up with what those precautions would need to be to keep everybody safe. It works perfectly. They want teams, I think it's 14 days, to be quarantined for 2 weeks before the beginning of the event. That works perfectly for us. We're going to quarantine ourselves in a gym, and we're going to be ready. A couple of us need to do a couple extra suicides before then, but we're all going to be together, and we're all going to be getting as ready as we can.
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely. Like, it's been really difficult with this whole thing. Obviously, this whole podcast was kind of born out of us being fans and having a little time because of the COVID, being able to do this with the Zooms. It's easier to get people on right now. Real quick, just a quick note, an ACC GM, ACC alumni team GM, the Power of the Paw GM is watching right now. I asked us when we had our new 24, so we'll just tell them flat out, we'll probably release one pretty soon. Staying on the COVID though, Ot, like obviously with the training and everything, trying to get there with the safety precautions, has it affected your recruiting at all? Have you had guys who wanted to play who couldn't play because of all the restrictions?
Actually, yes. We actually had one of my teammates from UTRGV, Shaquille Hines, was an all-conference performer. He had to go back. He was set to play with us. Germany restarted their league. He had to go back. He doesn't think he's going to be able to make it back. So we actually lost a player to that. And, of course, Dean Penova and Perry, who, if none of this would have hit, probably both would have been able to play. Now they're out. So it's hit us pretty hard. I know Some teams it's been good for. Guys are all back that maybe wouldn't have been, but we are sort of in the opposite way. Guys that would have been back are now not going to be back.
Yeah, no, that's a tough one. Like I said, lucky to draw on that one. The COVID thing obviously made it easier some, difficult on others. So, hopefully, like I said, to put up a good show this year and get those guys back for TBT 2021. Before we head off to closing, we always like to kind of get a feel for, your TBT memory. So obviously this is 2 years in. This is going to be your third. So just whether as a fan or a GM or a player, what's been your favorite memories of the TBT so far?
I think my favorite memory, and trust me, it wasn't a good one. The first year I broke my foot right before we were set to play, so I had to coach. We came out and absolutely waxed the Charlotte Chess Club, and we went into that next game against Ohio State and Columbus feeling pretty good. And I remember walking out. Of course, I had my little walking boot on, so I was sort of limping out, hobbling out. And I walked into the gym, and I was like, oh, my God. The place was sold out. The Ohio State fans were going nuts. It's 20 minutes before the game. I looked over, and 2 or 3 of the current Ohio State players, I remember Michael Potter was one of them, they had a little student section. Of course, we had our little herd contingency, about 4 or 5 rows, 50 people or so, going crazy. And the atmosphere was just unbelievable. I mean, you leave school and you don't think especially if you're quote-unquote semi-retired like myself and playing in the Y League, you don't think you're going to see an atmosphere like that. And I just remember that atmosphere was, nuts. And you're playing in front of people like that on national TV for $2 million. It doesn't really get much better than that, because doing any one of them by themselves is great. You put all 3 together, and it's just a dream situation. I think it's why the tournament's, the best thing going right now.
Yeah, no, you hit it right about the atmosphere, and that's been the great thing about the Capitol Center down there near Columbus the past couple of years has been that atmosphere. So it's been, it's really wild. Even like I said, Ohio State drawing the big crowds. You were there last year. Dayton just amped that place up a whole nother level. And so it's been pretty cool. And like you said, that's what we get from a lot of folks is, just the atmosphere. And I'm sure you guys, grew up not necessarily Ohio State fans, but respecting the games of people like Sullinger and Aaron Kraft. So to be able to play those guys had to be pretty cool.
Oh, it was awesome. Well, it was good, but not awesome. I'll take that back.
Yeah, got to win to be awesome.
I don't even know if it was. I don't even know it was good, to be honest with you. The slacking they put on us. I was sitting over there with a broken foot, so I was just sort of watching their layup line, and I hope none of our guys were. But I remember just sitting there. I remember this 6'11" dude going in there, going behind his back and dunking it. And I'm like, what did we just walk into? And it turned out it was B.J. Mullins, who was a lottery pick and played in the NBA. And then we got
him. I forgot about him.
And then I got 2 of my guys. I was like, just double team Jared every time he touches the ball. And it was like he was playing against. It was like nobody was guarding him. It was an unbelievable experience. We told him Diebler can shoot. Diebler can shoot. Aaron Kraft is a great player. I got nothing but respect for those guys. I watched them when I was in high school and they were in college or middle school. They've always been just 2, 3, 4 years ahead of me. Great time. It was a good experience. It was an experience playing them. I'm not going to use a positive adjective, but it was an experience. It was an experience playing those guys. The TBT's been a great experience overall. It's sad that this year's cut to 24 because we're looking forward to winning 8 games, but I guess now we're only going to have to win 5 or 6. I'm not very good at math, so.
None of us are. We can probably leave on all of us being bad at math because we're obviously having a hard time figuring out how to do computers. Real quick, this is our first show with what's going on, and I don't want to take up or speak for Charge or Op, but we just want to make sure we acknowledge, because we are sports fans, what's going on right now, and just everybody stay safe out there because it's been a really tough couple of days in this country, and all of us are really hoping we all can figure this out. Not to bring it down at the end because it's been a fun show. We got Ot Elmore from Heard That on ZoomTheTBT. Ot, thanks for swinging by.
No, thanks for having me. We'll have to do this again. This was pretty fun.
Absolutely. You're welcome back anytime.